Okay, this just in Egyptian archaeology came out April 9th, 2020. This is a city that it's been found up near Luxor. It's backed away from the Nile about 3/4 of a mile, from my understanding, and but at one time the Nile would have been just in that tree line that you see in the distance of the shot that's here. And the city was buried all under sand, and they found it here now. It's known as the Rise of Aten. So this is the starting of that type of period in the 18th dynasty that's here. You can see that most of the walls are all intact. Some of them are taller than people that are here, and in the left area and top left area you can see people working there in comparison to the walls and the kicking up dust that they've done, and the little cabana they've got set up just in the shot there, so you can see where they find artifacts and look over them and such. What we're looking at here is just one block of a city, if you will. Not to compare it to modern cities, but literally it is. Just one city block. Then over here on the right running is a causeway or a road in between that and another city block over here to the right. And you can see that there's an egress right over in here to another city block, and an egress and another city block, and it goes on and on. In fact, it may actually be going up under the city that's built just a few hundred yards away right now. And there used to be a harbor right there, and the Nile used to bend in quite differently, and they had a harbor set up for this, and you can actually still see that in Google Maps today. But let's get into this. One thing I've noted in this picture, you can see little white tags all over the place for what they found in there and what they're naming each site and each room, so they can keep up with it with their choreography of archaeology. But I can see a big old urn that's right down here. I hope you can see that. That thing is huge. If it was full, it'd be hard for one person to carry for sure. But I wonder about all the archaeological finds that they'll find in this city, for they've only done kind of a couple of city blocks out of something that they say rivals the size of the Amarna city. So tens of thousands of people lived here at one time. Let's get into this. It's called the Rise of Aten. An expedition working near Luxor has stumbled upon the remains of a lost ancient Egyptian city, and what is being hailed as the most significant archaeological discovery in the region since the 1920s. Yeah, we're over there with the Valley of Kings area that's not too far away, and a lot of the mortuary temples for a lot of the great kings that are going through this dynastic area that we're talking about. And when we say the 1920s, we're talking about Tutankhamun. Archaeologist Zahi Hawass, the former minister of the State of Antiquities and Affairs in Egypt, made an announcement on Thursday through his Facebook page. The 3,400-year-old city, called the Rise of Aten, was found buried in sand near the southern Egyptian city of Luxor in the Valley of Kings, the location of King Tut's tomb and so many more we know about. A team of archaeologists inadvertently stumbled upon the city while searching for Tutankhamun's mortuary temple. Now, there are a lot of mortuary temples. Seti's is right here and so on, and so they were trying to look for that and ended up finding something a little bit bigger. Hawass is claiming to have led the expedition, but the archaeologist is infamous for putting his name on virtually everything having to do with discoveries relating to ancient Egypt and for engaging in some shoddy science, this being an excellent example of such. That aside, this latest discovery is the real deal, and it's hard to overstate the importance of this incredible find. Now, it's during the 18th dynasty that we talked about, and so the new modern kingdom here, looking at it. And where we're at here is on that side road that you saw in the city block, about halfway up, looking down the trench that's there. One thing that I didn't point out, and I think we ought to go back up and look at it real quick, is that the wall of the city, which is seen over here on the right side, serpentine form. It oscillates in and out for some reason, as opposed to being a straight wall. utilizing a whole lot more material than it necessarily needed, and each one is leaned in just a certain amount. It goes around. Let's look at that on the larger scale, and I'll show you where this picture is taken from. So here's the first picture, and you can see this serpentine form of road going here, or wall going here, and where we were in that picture is right here looking down this trench. There's that first big room that's there, right? But you see this serpentine wall that's around this part of the city? There's another one over there. There's another one that's really what you see sticking up out of the sand, and it almost looks like a snake on the sand crawling across. Yeah. So buried under the sands of time. So one wonders what they'll find here. Now the city is one incredible find part of it here, of course, you know, the actual city itself. But whenever you realize something like this, there's got to be some archaeological finds to go along with it too. And seeing that jug there and a couple other things that they mentioned makes me wonder if this thing was just abandoned at one time. They were like, hey, just move it out. Did people not have a chance to grab their everything? You know, how did this go? And they'll probably be figuring that out for the next decade, if you will, if not more. So the rise of Aten dates back to the reign of Amenhotep III, the ninth pharaoh of ancient Egypt's 18th dynasty. This would have been the father of Amenhotep IV, what we know as Akenaten, and therefore putting this in that reign where this goes on. And Akenaten was the father of King Tut. We've shown quite a few videos about this dynasty, and it's amazing that here comes another portion about it right out of nowhere. Well, it's not out of nowhere. It's been there the whole time. Amenhotep III was in power from about 1391 to 1353 BC, and his rule coincided with a golden age, a time when ancient Egypt peaked in its international power and cultural output. This was after the Hyksos expulsion, but they still had chariots and all the things that had gotten from those people and the group, and therefore were able to prosper for a much longer phase. People have prophesied or said that if they didn't have that come in, maybe Egypt would have been swallowed up by the Near East earlier. So as Hawass explained in his release, the rise of Aten was the largest administrative and industrial center along the western bank of Luxor during this time period. Many foreign missions had searched for this city, but it eluded discovery until now, he added. Yeah, like people have been looking for this. Well, they weren't even looking for it when they found it. Quite often things like this come from a chip of pottery that some kid brings in or something, and they threaten the kid, like, where did you find all this at? And he thinks he's in trouble and everything, and then they just want to find out where he found it at to see if this is associated with something else. They come out to that area and look around, and lo and behold, yeah, there's a wall right here, or a little piece of stone on the ground. No, that's the wall. You've got to dig down 10 foot. Those walls are 10 foot, and you're finding an ancient city. Betsy Bryan, a professor of archaeology at Johns Hopkins University and an expert on this time period, said there's no indication that this is a section had been found before, so it doesn't look like it had been excavated out before. It had been a long sedation of it being abandoned. Although clearly it represents part of an enormous royal city, the size of this royal city was indeed similar to Amarna, the capital city to the north, and represents a clear precedent for the coming city of Akenaten. This was Akenaten City, added Bryan, who is not involved directly with the project. But that's Akenaten City, or the city of the sun that he created, separate. And it starts to become a thing where it looked like every pharaoh started making their own city somewhat, or grandiosing the city that they were in. Excavations in the area began in 2020, and within weeks the team began to uncover mud bricks. As the excavations continue, and much to their astonishment, the archaeologists began to realize that they were unearthing not the mortuary temple of King Tut, but a city of significant size. Despite being buried for thousands of years, the city was in a reasonably good state of preservation, featuring nearly complete walls, rooms filled with artifacts representative of daily life. The city streets flanked by houses, wrote Hawass, with some walls measuring nearly 10 feet tall or 3 meters tall. The team is now 7 months into the project, and there's still plenty of work to be done. As you can see, they've only done a few city blocks out of this giant city that's really been lost to time. Discoveries within the city include rings, scarabs, colored pottery, wine pitchers, and mud bricks inscribed with the seals of King Amenhotep III's cartouche, the later of which was used to date the city's building. A container packed with roughly 22 pounds or 10 kilograms of either dried or boiled meat features the following inscription: Year 37, dressed meat for the third Heb Sed festival, from the slaughterhouse of the stockyard of Ka, made by the butcher Louis. That's cool. This valuable information not only gives us the names of two people that lived and worked in the city, but confirmed that the city was active and the time of the King Amenhotep III's co-regency with his son Akenaten, wrote Hawass. Yeah, and it's also showing a festival, but also the third Heb Sed festival that had gone on in year 37. So this also helps correlate things that go along with dates and timelines. On the left, you can see all these Shabti dolls that are shown here in an array. A bakery was uncovered in the southern section of the city, along with an area for preparing and cooking food. So a food district, perhaps, including ovens and a storage area for pots. Based on its size, we can state that this kitchen was catering to a very large number of workers and employees, said Hawass. So not only would they have their own little Wyatt's cafeteria going on things, people would do their own cooking and so on, and there was communal cooking going on with little groups and stuff. It wasn't just solo that everybody had to eat here at the Chow Mess Hall, but this appears to be one in this area. In the city, there might have been quite a few. Uptown, downtown, east, north, and so on like that. There would have been more. A second area, still only partially investigated at this point, appears to be the administrative and residential district, as it features bigger and more organized living units. A well-arranged in a zigzag pattern encloses a wall arranged in a zigzag pattern encloses this area with a lone access point leading in, indicating some kind of controlled security measures. Well, that zigzag wall, that's not what we were looking at there. We were looking at a serpentine wall, but perhaps they're just mentioning, mislabeling it a little bit here, but zigzag would be sharper angles somewhat. But it appears that it's encompassing that city block that's there, and there's one egress into it, so everything's known in like administration center, right? But the one right across the street there has it too, and so does the other. This whole area may be the administration district. There are industrial sectors, all specifically divided by sinusoidal walls and discrete by function. So there's that sinusoidal walls, and that's industrial sections, not necessarily residential. So I'm expecting to see some other parts that have zigzag, and it might indicate to all the people and so on that this was its separate little area. There's something different about that. Not everybody goes in, and so on. This is exceptional in scale and organization. Ovens and kilns abound, stamped bricks in large numbers with a clay source next to them. Granite debitage from working statues, she wrote, adding, "Be still my heart," as if she might find some of them there, but maybe there was a working area here for statues that would go out into temples here and hundreds of miles away up and down the Nile. Apparent workshops were uncovered in a third area, including places of manufacture of mud bricks. Here the team also found casting molds which were likely used to produce amulets and delicate decorative elements. Per Hawass, he said this is further evidence that the extensive activity in the city to produce decorations for both temples and tombs. The archaeologists are also found tools possibly used for spinning and weaving and evidence of metal and glass making, though the main area in which these activities were performed has yet to be uncovered, so there's still a whole lot more. They did find a body here, that's the one that they're showing, and the dating on the little placard that's next to it there shows that it was December 30th of 2020 whenever they took the picture here of it. Somewhat mummified body. And if you look around its knees, it looks like it either has rope or a fabric that's been wrapped around its knees. The team also found a human burial in which an individual was found lying with their arms placed at their sides and the remnants of a rope tied around the knees. The location and position of this person was described as being odd, and it warrants further investigation. Same for a strange burial involving an apparent cow or bull found inside of a room. So here we have another animal type burial, or a sacred animal burial that was found inside of a room. And perhaps it has to do with the old Apis bull situation. Later we have, or in a different area, and people that have horses, we have sacred horse burials that go along with things, and they're commemorating things also. So this rise of Aten was eventually abandoned and relocated to Amarna, 250 miles to the north. For reasons that still elude archaeologists, only further excavations of the area will reveal what truly happened 3,500 years ago, wrote Hawass. Well, then it will still be speculation somewhat, but I mean, you'd have to find some incredible find to be able to turn around and say, this is exactly why. But there would be indications, and then people would discern what possibly or probably had happened. Excitingly, there is still much to explore within this ancient city, including a large cemetery, and a collection of, get this, rock-cut tombs. Whoa, it's suddenly 1922 all over again in 2021 and 2022. So one wonders how soon they'll get to the excavations of this city, and if it'll be part of the Luxor area tourist destination that you would be able to go to, in one of the destinations around Luxor and Valley of the Kings and stuff like that that goes along with that. Surely that's a little bit of, years away somewhat, but the size of this city makes it sound like it's going to be something like Pompeii that you might be able to walk through in some way. Pretty interesting. And one wonders what they find out of here, and if that would be even more interesting than the site of the city just itself. Finding of one body here and so on might be telling, and there might be something to go along with that. But then in the graveyard, we're going to be able to probably get genetics, although they probably could get genetics out of this person here and so on. But then also we could perhaps have, sometimes it's not a big city that's the big find, because there could be a small hieroglyphic encrusted jug or any type of thing around here that would say something on it would be more important, or the most important find of the whole site. But lots of Shabti dolls along with it too, and that associated graveyard or necropolis, that's quite interesting. And the rock-cut tombs, I wonder how soon before we'll start hearing something about that. And I wonder how soon before people will be able to, if they want to, go to Luxor here and walk through the streets of an ancient Egyptian city. Like, share, and subscribe, and enjoy. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Be looking for more on this coming up soon. Peace.